You're listening to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast, where we explore the intersection of people, business, and technology. This year, we're adding a new show to our lineup, The AI Advantage, to help you learn the skills you need to thrive in the AI era.
Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from Houston, Texas, in the United States, one of the first states I went to when visiting the US for the first time. He is a lead ERP advisor. His first award is MVP in 2024. He has been a champion of Dynamics 365 Business Central and the NAV user group community, which has over 26,000 members, which I did not know since 2011. He has 26 years of experience working with NAV or Navision and Business Central, 12 years working with users and 14 years working with Microsoft partners. You can find links to his bio and socials in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Looking forward to chatting with you today.
Same here. I always love to start with food, family, and fun. What do they mean to you? What do you do outside of tech around those kind of three core topics: food, family, and fun?
So I love to cook. I keep saying that if I retire someday, I'd like to be a sous chef. So I always like to experiment with spices, seasoning, and things. I will tell you, I'm pretty good with Mexican food. I will also say I have some Mexican heritage. So being from Texas and having some Mexican heritage, it's a good combination. So always good. And by the way, I also don't mind chasing it down with a little tequila, maybe a margarita or two. So that's the food side. I will also say here in Texas, and I've lived in about 10 different states. The one thing I miss outside of Texas is good Italian food. I like Italian food too. And I will tell you, there's nothing like, some New York food. So New York City food. So that said, family. So I have a daughter who followed in my footsteps. People call me a recovering CPA because I don't practice anymore. But my daughter went out and got her CPA. And then, a few years after being drugged through the trenches with one of the big four, she decided to do consulting like I do. The difference is she went out and worked on her own. So, I'm proud of her and very happy that she went out and found a niche for herself. And then my wife. So my wife just retired, and she's telling me that I need to retire, or I should have retired when she retired. What I find is that she thinks her time is my time now. So it's like every time I turn around, it's like we're going somewhere. So she's got next year planned out. So in terms of part of the fun is going to be traveling next year with her. I've been to all 50 states. I think I've been to probably about a dozen countries. I've even been down to Australia. Have not been to New Zealand, Mark, but it's on the list. So I've certainly done a lot of traveling. But the other thing I do for fun right now, I play ice hockey. I play 2 to 3 times a week, depending on whether or not I'm in town. So I enjoy the combativeness of that. And, I play with a lot of young guys. I play in one league where we have a 72-year-old, and the youngest guy in the league is 18. So that's quite a diverse range there. So that's my fun.
I've never associated Texas with ice skating or ice hockey.
That's a big misnomer here, and I'll tell you why. We are a very big energy producing company, or state, and I should say country. Well, we're a former country, but a lot of expatriates come down from Canada to work down here, and of course that's the recreation. So we have a lot of Canadians down here that come down and play ice hockey. The other thing is, I will share this. I play in a tournament, and I've played in that tournament for probably about 15 years now. They have 64 teams every year coming down from all over the country and from other countries. So it's one of the largest, and it's a 4-day event during Memorial Weekend, our Memorial Weekend. So yeah, we get a lot of hockey down here. Not as much as we would like, but we get a lot.
That's so cool. Couple of things to unpack there. What's the hottest spice you've cooked with?
So I have tried habanero. I find that a little bit too excessive. I do use serrano peppers, but and that's probably about as hot as I'm willing to go. Now that I'm a little older, I kind of I'm a little more cautious about what I put in my stomach.
Nice. For this last 12 months, I've grown habanero red and habanero yellow peppers myself. And I've also grown Carolina Reapers.
I've heard about those. I've never, I went to a Mexican restaurant one time and they had this sauce and I had to try it because it was like, eat it at your own risk. And I will tell you, 2 beers later, I was still cooling my tongue. Wow.
Now, I've not eaten either of them. I grow them and I give them away. I got people that want them. And for me, I enjoy the growing experience. I've grown them 3 ways. I've grown them in a greenhouse. I've grown them hydroponically, and I've grown them out in the garden. And the greenhouse hydroponic ones is where I got the biggest yield. I got a heck of a lot of fruit. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of gardens. I mean, I just don't have first of all, I'm busy and I never think about, by the way, we have a pool in the backyard. And I think, so we've been in this house probably about 10 years now. I think I've been in the pool 10 times. I'm not a big swimmer. I spend more time cleaning
it. Wow. So I'm interested, Business Central, Navision, NAV, 26,000 plus members. That's a big community.
It has really, it has grown a lot since I joined the community. And part of it is, Microsoft has decided that we're sunsetting Great Plains. People got to go somewhere. So they're coming to BC. And I'll say this, Mark, why not? We have this big user group every year, or user conference every year. And, in the past, GP and BC would go their own ways in the conference, but, they were very familiar with each other. And, hey, if that's what Microsoft is touting, and I got to say, having spent 26 years in the product, I think it's not a bad choice if you've got to go somewhere else.
I've always found it's the community that's really carried this product, I feel. Like, you don't see Microsoft, giving a lot of fanfare to BC. They seem to prioritize F&O and the various variances there. But I see the success of NAV and now BC really coming about because of the community. As in, particularly in recent years, it seems to be the community and partners that lead the charge with BC more than you will see Microsoft marketing to that effect.
Well, it's twofold. And I think part of it has to do with, and we'll come back to my journey in a moment, but I think there's a lot of people like me. We were, and again, I'm different where I started with a partner and then went to the user side. But there's a lot of people that have been pulled from the user community into the partner channel. And, we still are those, I can think of, dozens of people like myself that left the user side to go into the partner side, but we're still empathetic to all of our friends and the people we left behind. So we're trying to make this better. And that brings me to my thought or how I got into this or whatever. In 1999, I had spent 20 years in a retail industry, retail service type of thing. And I had put in a lot of different accounting systems because, back in the day, we were converting. I had one company I went to right out of college. They showed me ledger cards. I mean, at the end of every month, it took us 21 days to close the freaking books because they had to post the entries onto these ledger cards. And then somebody ran a 10 key to get the totals from all of that stuff. And when they were out of balance or made a mistake, Oh my God, it was forever. And then we had intercompany, and you had to match the intercompany. So we put in a mainframe based accounting system, and I got my real taste on, wow, this is what it's like to actually live in the real world, the new world, if you will. But I spent 20 years doing that, and it was almost by accident. I went to a company to help them come out of Chapter 11. We got out of Chapter 11, and the whole reason they went into Chapter 11 was they had acquired a company that they shouldn't have bought. Well, after we came out of Chapter 11, they bought another company. I'm like, whoa, I got to get out of here. This is deja vu all over again. And I replied to an ad in the newspaper that said, we need somebody who is interested in implementing accounting software and can present to people. And I'm like, well, shit, I've been doing that 20 years. I applied for that job. I got it, and I was hooked. I remember the first week on the job, they said, hey, we need you to learn how to do account schedules. They're now financial statements. And I was like, oh, this is cool how you can just build your own. And it was like, in my mind, it was a piece of cake. And 26 years later, I'm still at it. But I left, I say this all the time. When I left in after about 12 years there, I went to work for an end user, one of my clients. And at that point, I realized that a lot of people don't use all of the functionality. I had to know it because as a partner, you never know what you're going to be called upon to put in or to help with the system. And we also had a rental vertical. That's how I got over to Australia and things like that. I was going all over the country putting in these rental implementations. And in order to do that, you had to do fixed assets and service, two areas that, I'm really, really strong in. And when I came to the user side, that's how I got involved with the user side. I went into a webinar and people were talking about whether or not to use fixed assets. And I said, whoa. Why aren't we using fixed assets? Why aren't you using fixed assets? I thought everybody used fixed assets. And they drew me in. They said, well, wait a minute. If you know so much, why don't you present? And Mark, I was reeled in real fast. And, that's how I became part of the user group. And when I went back to the partner side, I was like, I can't leave this all behind. So I'm very passionate. I think anybody who goes and presents for the user group is a very passionate individual because you have to know your stuff and you have to be willing to learn. I learned every time I go to do a presentation, I learn something new. Either A, Microsoft has put something new in that I didn't know about, or holy crap, I never knew that was there. There is so much functionality. It is so deep, so rich.
So if you go back to that example you gave of 21 days to close out the book of accounts, and I probably want to look just one step above the software at this point of view, how much has accounting timelines, as in the time it used to take you to do stuff early in your career, to what it takes you now because of software being in the mix?
Well, let's go back to that situation. It took us 21 days to close the month. And then if it was a quarter, we spent that whole time doing all that stuff. We had financial reports that we had to put out to our parent company. We were behind the scenes. When I say we were closing the books, we had to reconcile all that stuff. Yeah, we reported maybe in 10 days, but we still had all the reconciliations to do behind the scenes. And then if it was, like I said, quarter close added an extra week. And then at month end or at year end, hell, we were 2-3 months down the road before we could actually, give a number. Nowadays, if you do things right in Business Central, theoretically 2 to 3 days and you're done. And now here's the other thing. The way Business Central is designed, and I tell people this and they don't realize it, you can close your books in Business Central the day after let's say it's the normal month end and, it's the end of the year too. You can close your books at that point, get at least a preliminary closing entry, and BC lets you continue to close the books, multiple times thereafter, like when the auditors come in with their AJs and everything like that. So I'm just amazed at how quickly things happen. What actually, Mark, what really amazes me is the people who don't pay attention to that, and it still takes them 10 days to close the books because they think that they have to have every nickel and dime, certified in there.
How much do you see things changing with ideas like accounting system to accounting systems talking to each other? So you have a supplier, and rather than them emailing you a PDF invoice, things like that, God forbid, still sending paper-based invoicing, are you seeing a move in the industry to electronic system to electronic system? Is that already mainstream, or is it coming online where that's just, what back, we would have called EDI, electronic data interchange, in the past? But how much is that happening at the BC level these days?
I think it's happening. It could happen more than if here's the, I don't want to say this. People are still doing the way things they did in the past. That's you have a mindset that, oh, we want to get there, but we can't move too fast. Or you have money constraints. People don't want to invest in that end of it. And Mark, you say now, but I remember I had a project. It was 2003, and we were working with they manufactured equipment. I'm not going to mention the name, but they manufactured equipment, and we were obviously a rental company that we were working with their dealers. And one of our requirements was that when an item came in for repair, the pieces of equipment that were being rented, they had to be able to download from the dealer's service center what potentials were the issues. And we had to be able to transmit claim information back and forth. And that wasn't EDI. That was just, okay, we need a file, okay, that we can reach that file and pull it into, and back then it was Navision. So what you're talking about has been evolving for a long time. And I see it happens now. You can actually import documents into BC, and, there's ISVs out there that did that. I'm wondering, as Microsoft continues to put more and more functionality into the system, how many of these ISVs are going to run into problems where, ooh, that's what we do, and what's our fallback?
Is there any, talking about ISVs, is there any ISV that, if you, from a point of view of the implementation works you've done, you always add, 2 or 3 ISV solutions in? Do you have any kind of go-tos that, or that you might not be using now, but across your career, you've definitely, used specific ISVs? Because I come from the CE side of the world, we've been very limited in the ISV add-ons, where in the finance side, I've always seen a very good, robust ISV ecosystem, it seems.
So let me pause the call and see if I can get some monies for this advertisement. But I'm going to say this. I've always been impressed with InsightWorks. They have a whole boatload of free. So that's the thing. They have a boatload of free apps that you can download into BC. But then they also have, like, if you need additional functionality, and maybe that's Mark always does a great job on his webinars, like talking about the free stuff. But he has some really great add-on features that help boost the productivity out there. So, that's one that comes to mind. I have some other smaller things out there, but he's a pretty big ISV that a lot of people use. So hats off to you, Mark.
No, very good, very good. What about hardware integration? Have you had many of those type of scenarios, whether it be kind of like, I don't know, barcode scanners in specific environments, or even, where it's used in manufacturing? Do you have any kind of hardware? Have you come across that in your career where data has been ingested off manufacturing lines and things like that? Counters, maybe?
I've done one implementation with hardware. By the way, I also step back and say, I've got a lot of specialties in Business Central, but manufacturing is one of those areas where I never got involved. Because I spent 12 years with a rental vertical, we didn't do manufacturing, so I was never exposed to it. And by the time, I came out and got out of the partner, like 12 years with a partner, 10 years with the user, that was 22 years into it, where I didn't actually spend any time in manufacturing. So I tend to stay away from that because, my bread and butter, I will tell you, if somebody is a service company, and I'm going to say this, there are very few partners out there that really do well with service, the service management piece in Business Central. And I'm amazed. I get phone calls from, third-party ISVs that say, hey, can you do a presentation for us because this partner doesn't know the service side of it? And I've actually won some deals for people where they say, you sell it and you can do the service side. We'll do the rest of it. And that's fine because, as I said, I'm a CPA recovering from that. And I don't mind if I don't have to do the debits and credits.
Yeah. We're almost at time. My final question to you is, what was your journey to becoming an MVP?
So just like the rest of my career, I was kind of late to the show. I mentioned that I'm a CPA. I didn't get my CPA till I was like 6 years out of the school. Most people, they want to apply all of that right there. And then, I was 20 years out in the industry before I said, oh, hey, I can do this implementation stuff. Well, 26 years, or actually 24 years later, or whatever it is, I become an MVP. I didn't really know much about the program, and I owe it to my friends who have recently become MVPs to say, hey, you should be one. I didn't know much about it, but I will tell you this, very impressed about what I've learned and what I know. And, I will also say that I'm very thankful because I had an opportunity this year to go out to Denmark and speak to the product team out there. Again, about service management, some of the functionality that I'm like near and dear to me that I put in as extensions because the functionality isn't there yet. I hope that before I retire, I get to see many of those ideas come to fruition.
Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Mark, it has been a pleasure. So thank you very much for asking the great questions.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.
Are you ready to accelerate your career in the Microsoft ecosystem? The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, created by Mark Smith, is your opportunity to create a personalized pathway to success. Join over 1,200 alumni from more than 70 countries who have achieved remarkable results, from promotions to new job opportunities. Take it from Nathan, who said, since completing the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, I've become an MVP in business applications and doubled my income. Or from Parves, who shares, I've never felt as inspired or energized about my career as I do now. Sign up at arcor.nz365guy.com. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off.